All right, this is another episode of The Bible is History, and we want to talk a little bit about coins in the Maccabean period. The Maccabean period is that time between the Old and the New Testament where a lot of things have begun to change. There's several historical events that are happening in there, and learning and collecting coins that are from that period are a great way to learn more about it. So I've got Jake Gorsica here again with me, and we're going to take a look at some of the coins that he's collected that date back all the way before the New Testament into that 400 years in between the Old Testament and the New Testament. So we'll look at a coin from Antiochus IV. We'll look at John Herecanis, and even a coin from the Roman Republic before the empire that we lived through in the New Testament. So Jake, tell us about Antiochus and about the coin we have in front of us.
Okay. Antiochus IV was also known as Antiochus Epiphanes. A lot of the Greek kings took on titles along with their names. Epiphanes means God manifest. Antiochus actually believed at one point that he was a reincarnation of the Canaanite god Baal and demanded that people give him a little bit of worship, although he was more focused on Zeus than on Baal. He actually demanded that the Jews worship Zeus, and he put a statue of that Greek god in the temple. He was really cruel to the Jewish people, although he was very kind to Syrians. I got a little bit ahead of myself. He was the Seleucid king of Syria, the little empire that broke off of Alexander the Great after his death. He was a very eccentric ruler. He was known to associate with the peasants, which was very uncommon for kings at that time. He did a lot of other strange things as well. And as a result, they picked a word, Epimanes, which means the crazy one or the mad one, which sounds a whole lot like Epiphanes. It was kind of a play on words for them. He had to fight a lot of other enemies during the time of the Maccabean revolt, but he suddenly died of disease in the year 164, and that is what gave the Maccabees the opportunity to break away from Syria and become an independent nation of Israel. Now, this specific coin, if you look right at it, you can tell that the edge is jagged. The Seleucids did that on purpose. There was a stretch of time in which their low-value copper coins all had a serrated edge. Coin collectors actually have a term for those. We call them affectionately bottle cap coins because they're shaped like the old bottle caps. No one has been able to determine why they minted coins like this. Some people think it was just for artistic reasons, but we'll never really know. Now, if you look on the left, you can see the heads, or the obverse. It actually has a very well-preserved image of Antiochus himself. On the back, we have a Greek deity, I'm not sure which, and his title, King Antiochus in Greek.
All right. All right, now we're getting to the Jewish rulers in Judea during the Maccabean period.
Yeah.
Tell me about this king and those coins.
This was one of the earlier Maccabees. His name was John Herecanis. He reigned from 134 to 104 BC, so his reign began only 30 years after the original Maccabean revolt. Early on, the Seleucids still kind of had some control over Israel. It was nominally an independent nation, but the Seleucids still controlled a lot of things. John Herecanis changed that. He got out from under the Seleucids' thumbs. He had to fight with King Antiochus VII, but he was able to really cement Jewish independence. He also expanded a lot of Judea's territory. He was pretty shrewd. He went as far as to make a treaty with the Roman Republic, a treaty of friendship. The Republic by this point had grown so powerful that any friend of the Republic, everybody else would be afraid to touch. If you attacked Israel, you would have the wrath of Rome come down on you. And believe me, it's not something you would have wanted. There was a king in Pergamon who was so afraid of the Republic that he actually left his kingdom to the Republic in his will just to avoid war. Now, if you'll notice, this specific coin doesn't have an image of any human on it. On the front, we just have, there were double cornucopia, but it was struck off center, so you can only see one of them. And on the other side, there's a wreath with a Jewish inscription. Reason being, under the Mosaic law, the Jews were not supposed to have graven images. They took that to mean that you couldn't depict an animal or a human being. So any Jewish coin is going to bear the images of inanimate objects. Now, if you look on the right side, at the very top of the coin, you can barely see it. There's one little letter in Greek. It's an alpha. And that is the only way I know of to distinguish John Herecanis from the other coins. Maccabean coins all look very similar, but that little alpha they think represented Alexander Sabinus, who was another ally of John Herecanis.
So because there are no faces, you have to come up with a lot of other ways to try to figure out who is who.
Right. In fact, archaeologists haven't even really agreed on whose coin is whose of the Maccabees. It's still kind of contested. There's two major theories going on, so kind of difficult.
Thanks. Tell us about this next king of Judea.
Alexander Jannaeus, he started his reign immediately after John Hyrcanus. He started in 103 and reigned until 76. We don't know a whole lot about him. His reign wasn't entirely eventful. We do know that he expanded the Judean kingdom even further. And if you look on the front of the coin on the left, you can see the image of a star. Some people think that refers to a prophecy in the book of Numbers, and he thought that it predicted his reign. We're pretty sure that it actually referred to something else, but don't tell him that. The coins on the other side were struck on flans that were way too small. If you look, the coin on the furthest left of the right-hand picture, there's a little anchor surrounded by a circle. To give you an idea how small these coins are, you could fit a pencil eraser inside that circle. These are often sold when you buy ancient coins. These not Hyrcanus, the Alexander Jannaeus coins are often sold as the famous widow's mite from Christ's parable. We have absolutely no clue which ruler was on the coin Christ mentioned, but Alexander Jannaeus is really abundant. A lot of his coins show up in practically every Middle Eastern hoard. They would otherwise be a tough sell, so marketers have connected them to the parable and made them more popular.
All right, thanks. So you mentioned already the Roman Republic. Tell us about these coins.
This coin is early Denarius of the late Roman Republic. It was minted around 90 BC. On the front, you can see a goddess, Roma, who's the goddess of the city of Rome. And on the reverse, you see a chariot. Under the chariot is an inscription. There's the letter L, I, a U, an L, and an I. That stands for Lucius Julius Caesar, the person who minted this coin. He's not the famous Julius Caesar. That Caesar's first name was Gaius, but he is an ancestor of that famous dictator. But the Roman Republic had started out really small. They had elected officials just like we did. Consuls were elected every year, but the Senate was a hereditary position. Most of the expansion, when Rome was going around swallowing up all these other little kingdoms, happened during the time of the Republic. The empire didn't actually do that much conquering. The Roman Republic became involved in a lot of Middle Eastern conflicts, including a lot of the civil wars in Judea between the Maccabees themselves. The unfortunate side of that is when Romans get involved in something, they tend to do so to their profit. So the more Rome became involved, the more control they started to exercise over the region, and eventually, in 63 BC, the Roman Republic annexed Syria, and they took Israel along with it. That is why Christ was born in a Roman territory, rather than a free Jewish one.
All right, thanks. So just to fill you in a little bit about the Maccabean period, by looking at the coins from that time. Thanks, Jake.
You're welcome.
And we'll have you back.